Arrest a 25-year-old man. The police haven't mentioned Habibur Masum by name, but they have confirmed that it's a 25-year-old man who has been arrested on suspicion of murder. The logical leap is to suggest that that was Habibur Masum that has been arrested by police.
Well, we heard that Habibur Masum, 26, as you say, has been found guilty of the murder of his wife, Salma Akhtar.
No one who passed them on the street would have guessed how close they were to the edge. Habibur Masum was 26 years old. Kulsuma Akhtar was 27. They were newly married by the standards of their families, young, hopeful, still learning how to live inside one another's expectations. They came from Bangladesh to the United Kingdom with the same quiet dream shared by thousands before them: work hard, raise a family, stay together, and make their parents proud. From the outside, their life in Bradford looked ordinary. A modest flat, a new baby boy, visits from relatives who spoke about patience, sacrifice, and what it meant to be a good wife and a strong husband. But inside the home, something was already breaking. Kulsuma tried to be gentle. She tried to be calm. She tried to excuse his moods as stress, his jealousy as love, his anger as something that would soften with time. She told herself what so many women are taught to believe, that marriage requires endurance. Masum, meanwhile, struggled with control, with suspicion, with the fear that if he loosened his grip, he would lose everything. His words became sharper, his questions more frequent. Where were you? Who did you speak to? Why did you take so long? These moments did not arrive all at once. They crept in quietly, disguised as concern. And when their son was born, Kulsuma believed, truly believed, that this would change everything. For a short while, it did. There were nights when Masum held the baby and smiled, days when Kulsuma imagined a future that felt safe again. She sent photos to her family. She spoke softly about hope. But fear does not disappear simply because a child enters the room. It waits, it watches, and it grows stronger in silence. There were moments, small, terrifying moments, when Kulsuma realized she was no longer being loved, but monitored. Her phone checked, her movements questioned, her independence shrinking by degrees she could barely measure. She began sleeping lightly, listening for footsteps, measuring her words. And still, she stayed. Because leaving is never just leaving. It means disappointing families, breaking traditions, facing judgment from a community that often asks why a woman didn't try harder, rather than why a man refused to stop. Before the storm came, there was one thing Kulsuma never stopped believing: that truth would protect her, that if things became serious enough, someone would step in. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe silence protects the wrong people, then stay with us. Subscribe, like, comment, share, because awareness is not passive. It saves lives. Kulsuma did not yet know how much she would need that truth to be heard. The first time Kulsuma thought she might die, it wasn't on a street, it was inside her own home. The argument began over nothing, something small, forgettable, but it escalated the way arguments do when fear already lives in the room. Voices rose, accusations followed, and then Masum reached for a knife. He didn't stab her, he didn't have to. Holding it was enough. The blade resting near her throat while his voice shook with rage and desperation. In that moment, Kulsuma understood something with terrifying clarity. Love had turned into ownership, and ownership had turned into danger. Later, when the house was quiet again, she sat on the floor holding her baby and cried without sound. This time, she told someone. Social services became involved. Police reports were filed. The unspoken was finally spoken aloud, and that alone felt like betrayal to the world she came from. Family members urged patience. Elders asked her to reconsider. Some suggested involving authorities was worse than the violence itself. Masum denied everything. He apologized when it suited him, promised change when it was necessary, and when those words stopped working, his anger returned, sharper now, fueled by the idea that she had embarrassed him. Kulsuma made a decision that required more courage than anyone around her seemed willing to acknowledge. She left. With her baby in her arms, she entered a refuge, an undisclosed location meant to keep women alive, not comfortable. The walls were plain, the rules were strict, the fear was constant. But for the first time in months, she could breathe, or so she thought, because Masum did not accept her leaving as the end. To him, it was theft. He sent messages, he made threats, he demanded she return, and when she didn't, his obsession deepened into something darker. What Kulsuma didn't know was that he was watching, tracking, waiting. Bradford city center was busy that day. People moved through the streets carrying bags, pushing prams, checking phones, completely unaware they were walking through the final hours of someone else's life. Kulsuma believed she had done everything right. She had followed the advice, stayed hidden, built routines that felt safe. She walked with her baby during daylight hours, surrounded by people, trusting that public space meant protection. Masum had other plans. He had followed her movements, learned her routes, convinced himself that this confrontation would fix everything, that if he could just speak to her, just force her to listen, she would come back. In his mind, this was not violence, it was reclaiming control. When he saw her on the street, her back turned, her baby beside her, something inside him snapped. And Kulsuma sensed it before she saw it. That instinct women talk about, that tightening in the chest, that sudden awareness of danger behind you. She turned, and the past caught up to her. Witnesses would later struggle to describe what they saw, not because it was unclear, but because it was unthinkable. Masum approached her without warning. His movements were fast, deliberate. The blade appeared in his hand before Kulsuma could react. She screamed. The baby cried. People froze. The attack was brutal and swift. Multiple stabs, no hesitation, no pause for mercy. Kulsuma fell to the ground as strangers rushed forward, some trying to intervene, others pulling back in shock. Someone grabbed the baby, someone else shouted for help. Masum ran. The street fell silent, except for the sound of sirens growing closer and the cries of a child who would never remember his mother's voice. Kulsuma died there, in public, after doing everything she was told would keep her safe. The manhunt stretched across counties. Masum was arrested nearly 200 miles away in Buckinghamshire. He offered no explanation that could undo what he had done. Bradford mourned. Flowers lined the street. Vigils formed. Strangers spoke her name as if saying it might bring her back. Kulsuma's family received the news no parent should ever hear. Their grief was compounded by guilt, by questions they would never answer, by the knowledge that she had asked for help and paid for it with her life. Her son survived. That fact alone became both comfort and agony. The courtroom was quiet when the verdict was read. Guilty of murder, of stalking, of assault. The evidence told a story Masum could not escape. Messages, threats, witnesses, patterns of control that ended exactly where everyone now sat. The judge spoke of brutality, of premeditation, of a woman failed by the very systems meant to protect her. A life sentence followed. Justice finally had language, but justice does not resurrect the dead. Kulsuma's story did not end in that courtroom. It continued in advocacy groups, in community conversations that could no longer pretend this was private, in families forced to confront the cost of silence. Her name became a warning and a promise that leaving is not betrayal, that fear is not weakness, that truth matters. Her son will grow up knowing his mother through stories, through photographs, through the courage it took for her to try to live. Justice was served, truth was spoken, and Kulsuma Akhter is no longer invisible. Her life and her death demanded change, and that demand remains. This was not a crime of passion, it was a crime of control, and it ended because one woman chose truth, despite the cost. Remember her name.